for a romance novel, Save the Galaxy, by Ariana Deralte. Chapter 17. Dooku 2, Galadran 2. Galadran was in the middle of winter. The governor was a thin, nervous man whose bulk was wrapped up by the heavy fur robes and winter hat he wore. His eyes darted constantly off the screen when they contacted him from the transports. "Your Jedi came just in time. The Mandalorians are packing up to leave in the mountains near here. If you hurry, you can just catch them." "We will catch them regardless," said Jan. "But first, I would like you to describe your attackers, Governor." "What do you mean?" asked the nervous man. "What type of armor they wore, the symbols on said armor, who they said they were, and who they attacked. We'll arrive at your residence shortly so you can tell us more." "There is no time, Mr. Jedi. The two Mandalorians slaughtered political insurgents, women, and children. If you stop to talk, they will escape." "The insurgents and women maybe, but the children? Never." "Why did they do that? Who paid their contract?" demanded Jan, taking a step closer to the holoprojector. He knew he was an intimidating sight. The governor flinched. I mean, I don't know. They just appeared out of nowhere." Jan caught the truth in that first answer. The governor paid them. The force surged in agreement with this conclusion. "We will be there in several minutes. Please prepare any images or proof you have of the Mandalorians' actions." He shut off the comm. "It looked like someone pissed in his blue milk," said Kamadi with some glee. "Must you be so crude?" asked Jan rather rhetorically. He changed the comm code to broadcast to the other Jedi ships. "Everyone divert to the governor's residence. There is to be no engaging with any Mandalorians until I give the word. The governor is hiding something. I suspect we are walking into a trap." "I do like springing traps," said Kamadi, grinning. Jan really needed to have a word with her about the bloodthirstiness she was broadcasting into the Force. She was never going to pass her trials in the future if she didn't. Each time he had mentioned it before, she tamped it down for a few months before reverting right back to where they were now. They never made it into the governor's mansion, only the ship landing pad. There was a woman with short-cropped green hair standing in servant clothes near one of the ship's ramps. At first, Jan thought she was sent to greet them by the governor. "Whichever of you is Jeti Master Dooku, I have a comm for you from Mandalore Medial." She held out the device which Jan strode over to take from her after assessing her in the Force. The woman was a little nervous about being in the presence of so many Jedi, but there was no sense of hatred or deception. "You're a true Mandalorian?" he asked. She nodded, coming to attention even though she lacked the armor. "Areta Chris, the Mandalore sent me to infiltrate when we saw all the ossick he'd been spewing about us to the Republic. But you should talk to him, not me, sir." He pushed the button to connect. For a second there was static, then the sounds of blaster fire and status reports in Tinny Mandoa. "Jester here." The fight sounds became muted. "This is Jedi Master Dooku. Who are the true Mandalorians fighting?" There was a grunt on the other end of the line before the Mandalore answered. "Death Watch. These Darmanda decided to make the stories the governor told about us true, since you didn't take the bait to immediately come slaughter us. Thanks for that." The sarcasm was practically dripping from the comm. "You want to come help protect these people, or are you going to sit on your ships?" Strangely enough, the Mandalore seemed completely certain that the Jedi were going to come help. It occurred to Jan that if Mariel had read The Mandalorian's Dilemma, he'd probably have a much better understanding of Jedi than your average Mandalorian. "Knight Marcus, Knight Padvor, stay here and interview the governor. Make sure he doesn't flee while we sort this out. The rest of you, divide into 2 ships. Arta has the coordinates. Mariel out." The battle was not far. A few minutes later, their ships were touching down on a snow-covered field next to a town. Some of the stone houses were on fire. The sharp whine of blaster fire and missiles muffled the shouts of the fighters. "Iafan, Ueza, go rescue and protect any civilians." The human and Twi'lek knights peeled off. "The rest of you follow me. My understanding is that Death Watch will be wearing blue and grey armor, but we'll get the Mandalore to confirm. Remember that armor might muffle the Force, so stay alert." The fight was centered around the town square, high stone buildings crowding around on all sides. Both sides were fighting on the ground and perched on the roofing tiles of the local buildings. They found the Mandalore crouched behind a stone wall with the other true Mandalorians. One of their medics was near the back trying to treat a woman and her child. Jan gestured at Knight Trelane, who had some healing experience, to go help them. The Mandalore's armor was the silver of pure Beskar with red outlining his visor and on his cape. He was, Jan admitted to himself, very dashing. "Jedi!" came the cry from one of the Mandalorians watching their flank. "Stay focused!" shouted the Mandalore, keeping low as he retreated back towards them. "Dooku?" he asked, helmet narrowing in on Jan with ease. Jan nodded. "Mandalore, our Death Watch in grey and blue." The Mandalore looked around before pointing at a Mandalorian who was in the air with his jetpack, armor gray with bright blue accents. "Except for Miles up there, yes. And Vizsla's armor is black." "Vizsla, their leader, likes killing parents in front of their children." He turned to address the rest of the Jedi. "Jango was leading a squad around the back to ambush them if any of you want to join him. Green armor with yellow and red accents." "Master Inern, take 6 of the knights to join them," ordered Jan. Inern was a young master with long dark hair. "The rest of you support the Mandalorians. Here, Kamari!" Jan looked around and sighed. She was already on the front lines using the Force for some exaggerated battered leaps and deflections. "Ah!" she crowed. It took him a moment to realize she was competing with the Mandalorian Miles for how many Death Watch they took down. He sighed again as he ignited his own saber. The Mandalore chuckled. "Jango's the same way, always rushing into battle." He took a shot. "I need to talk to your council about the offset going down on Bandamir," he said casually. Was this about Holden Law's complaints? "But let's kill the Shabor first." He raised his voice at the end. A chorus of "Lek Alor!" was shouted back. "Perhaps you can clear up some issues I've been having with Kiri," said the Jedi after they had been walking in silence for a long time. "Well, I speak Rill, and she has some words she uses which aren't standard or Rill. I believe she picked them up from her captors." "Like what?" "Do you wish to say anything, Kiri?" asked the Jedi first. The girl shook her head. Part of the Jedi's tunic had gone to make her a head and Leku covering. "May I say something?" This time the girl nodded. "When I asked where she had been, all she answered was Haran. Is that a place in Mandalore?" Narad stiffened. Just what had the poor ad been put through? "It means hell, Jedi. A place of destruction." "You can call me him, you know." Narad shook his head slightly. Calling a Jedi by their first name felt like it might be a step too far.